Hello, everyone. Carson Courier here for this special edition of Unscripted on 13 Plus. We do not have a newscast at noon today on 13 News because of soccer, so we're bringing you the latest news stories and, of course, your first alert forecast right here on 13 Plus. But we do want to get started with a presser. So in just minutes, we're expecting Tommy Lloyd to begin talking. We know that he just received a contract extension. Tommy Lloyd is the Arizona head basketball coach, and he will be joined this afternoon by other players to discuss this week's matchup against number 21 Washington State. This press conference also comes after U of A announced a contract extension for Tommy Lloyd, as I mentioned. They've agreed on a 5-year contract extension that will keep Lloyd in Tucson until at least 2029, pending approval by the Arizona Board of Regents. So as soon as that press conference gets started, we'll listen in here. It is scheduled for exactly noon, but of course, sometimes people are running a little late. So I'm watching it right here on our end. As soon as Tommy Lloyd pops up, we'll flip on over to that. But happening now, we know that the court is back in session in the retrial of Christopher Clements. Now the defense has the chance to open its case and call rebuttal witnesses to the stand. Last week, prosecutors used Clements' phone to show he had photos of young girls. Using tracking data, detectives were able to place Clements near where Salas's remains would eventually be found on the day she disappeared. But they did not have DNA evidence that he was in or near her bedroom, and none proving she was ever in his car. So, of course, be sure to stay with us on 13 News for continued coverage of the Clements trial for the latest developments out of the courtroom. Also happening right now, Senator Kyrsten Sinema is hosting a border roundtable in Douglas. That got started about 45 minutes ago. City and county leaders, Customs and Border Protection officials, and other stakeholders are all there. Now, this roundtable comes at a time when Pima County is running out of federal funding. The county says it cannot afford to house, feed, and transport migrants crossing the border. This program has been going on since 2019, and the county has spent millions of federal grants to keep 350,000 asylum seekers off the streets. The county says it will not take money out of the general fund to keep things going. Again, this roundtable is happening right now, so hopefully we can get a little bit of information about what is coming out of that as soon as possible. As soon as we do, we'll keep you updated both on air and online. And of course, the huge story today that everyone's talking about is our weather. Yes. We have 13 First Alert forecaster Allie Potter here with us in her cowgirl boots. You can't even see them, but we are so excited. Oh, you do. You can just feel it in the air. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Finally here.
Yeah, so we have some good news and bad news for
Okay.
today. The good news is, well,
I mean, she's impressive,
Okay.
you know, and that was great. That's been worked on behind the scenes for a long
Well,
time.
exactly.
So just
Can you
I don't know,
imagine
just
with
kind
all
of
the
unique
weather
timing, I
going
guess.
on?
But I don't think there was anything
Okay.
strategic about the timing.
Peace of mind for you, knowing that that's taken care of?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, but you know, I mean, I don't coach for a contract. I mean, I coach for Thursday's game. You know, I'm looking forward to that, and you know, there's obviously a business side to everything, and you know, I'm pretty fortunate to end up on a good side of it. But you know, I slept last night like I usually sleep. You know, ate the same microwave dinner I usually eat. So I don't think nothing's really changed in how I'm approaching things.
Stand with Mike Andrea being the interim athletic director. How has he helped not only yourself but other coaches through this time until you guys found the liberty?
You know, I'm imagining. You know, I mean, I can't speak for other coaches, but Coach Candrea and I have a great relationship, and we have since I first arrived. I mean, we got a special bond, and I mean, he's a winner and a special leader, but more importantly, he's just a great guy to be around. So he and I give each other a hard time, and we have a lot of fun together. So you know, it was, you know, when he was the interim guy, I mean, obviously I had a great relationship with Dave, and then Mike comes in and had a great relationship with him, and I think he and I have a vested perspective interest, you know, vested interest on the University of Arizona being great overall, you know, athletic department, university, and you know, so we share that same outlook on things.
Miles Rice has really taken off since the game you guys played up there. What are you seeing now from him?
Well, I think he's had a good year overall. He's a really good basketball player. I mean, he's really impressive, and the more you watch him, I mean, there's nothing fluky about what he's doing. I mean, he's just a really good player who plays with extreme confidence. And, I think when you just take a step back and can imagine from his perspective what he's been through as a young man in his journey to basically, to have cancer, go through, the full recovery and miss 2 years. And I'm sure he loves basketball. Obviously he does. You can tell by the way he plays. He has joy and confidence. That you could probably imagine underneath all that's a high character, tough kid. And he plays like that, and he's extremely impressive. And I'm really happy for him, and it's an honor to compete against him.
This is where you kind of hoped to be with 3 weeks left in the season, competing for a league title. You have a game tomorrow night that kind of hangs in the balance with that. Just thinking big picture overall, how much are you looking forward to seeing your guys these last few weeks compete to try and close out the league title?
Well, I mean, I always look forward to watching our guys compete, and you're getting down to, towards the end, so things are tightening up and starting to take shape a little bit, and you got to take advantage of opportunities put in front of you, and we have to, and you know what, our opponent's saying and feeling the same thing, so that's what makes it special nights. I like where we're at. I know it hasn't been easy getting here. But we never asked for it to be easy. So I'm looking forward to, game by game as we go down the stretch of the season and seeing how the things plays out. I don't expect us to be perfect, but hopefully, we incrementally we keep inching forward, and as we get towards the end and you get to tournament time, hopefully we're playing really good basketball. I mean that's my only hope.
State hasn't lost a game in regulation since January 6th. What are they doing well as a team right now?
Well, they're playing extremely well. I mean, they're they got a really unique mix of players, and their coaching staff's done a great job putting them in good positions. Defensively, they're kind of running this zone to man defense that people are struggling to figure out a little bit, and it's not a junk defense because it's legit. They're doing a great job with it. And then offensively, they're making sure the ball's in the right guy's hands. They got people playing their roles really well. They have two big guys that are really unique in the fact that they can both are comfortable with multiple dribbles, which you don't find a lot of big guys doing these days, and they're both good passers. So it puts you in tough situations defensively, where you got to make some decisions, and they're obviously their guard play. We talked about Rice earlier. It's been as good as we've had in our conference this year.
What have you liked about the aggressiveness offensively we've seen from Jaden, especially in this last game where a lot of us weren't sure that he could be that kind of player who could create his own shot?
I mean, I know it's in him. I think it's just for him kind of being able to figure out what it looks like and feels like in game situations. He did a much better job, attacking downhill for simple finishes and getting on 2 feet. Those are things we've been trying to encourage him to do. And his shooting's really come along. I mean, you can really see that and feel that. I don't know if he's ever going to be a high volume, shooter. but I think, the good shots he takes, he's going to have ability to make. And he's shown that over the course of the season. So I'm really proud of JB and his contributions. And, and I know he's a winner, and I'm glad other people are starting to see that now.
About the big guys at Washington State, Clough played at Cochise. What do you see in him? What's he look like?
Maybe one of these guys. I don't even know how old he is, but he's experienced and he's tough and he's got some old man game. But I think what's underrated about him, I think he's a really good athlete. I think he moves well. I think he has an ability. He's a quick jumper, maybe not the highest jumper, but he's kind of light and quick on his feet. And I guess the word you'd use for some big guys back in the day would be a plotter. He's definitely not a plotter. I mean, he's somebody that moves easy, and I think he's probably bigger and stronger, than maybe what you see on film. So he's a really good player. I mean, I actually enjoy watching him play.
Are you a believer that other sports can cross over and help guys? Because he apparently is from the Sunshine Coast in Australia, grew up surfing and doing stuff like that. Big guy on a surfboard helped. I don't know. Does that translate?
Hey man, I listen. I think good athletes can play lots of sports. So I mean, and maybe there is some crossover, but you and I probably will have to go down to gets with some physiologists, we can catch up on the elevation stuff, and then we can do the crossover and sports stuff. But Bruce, it's a great question, but I'm just saying good athletes can do a lot of things. And getting back to what I said, I think he's probably, more athletic than maybe what you would, within what you would imagine him to be.
State, that game, I think you guys missed about 20 layups and dunks and all that. How much of that was them, or just you guys not being able to complete?
It's probably a combination of both things. I think they do a really good job of, protecting the rim. The way they're building their defense, they're trying to keep size down as much as they can, and they're being aggressive, contesting those shots, and they do a good job of being physical, without obviously fouling, which is something I'm sure they practice, and they're good at it. And our guys just have to have an awareness when you go down there. You got to be on balance, and you got a responsibility to make the shot. If you're playing for fouls, it's probably not the day they're going to be called.
USC game where I think you had mentioned that you need to, if it's not a foul, you need to finish that. Like, it's got to be a layup. Do you think that's gotten better?
Well, I always think that wasn't just a revelation from those two games. I'm not a big guy that's really excited for our players to just dive into people and hope refs blow their whistle. So I want to leave it in our players' hands, and hopefully if there's an obvious foul or a foul is created, the refs reward it. So I don't get much more complicated than that, but we always focus on finishing first. That's always our priority.
There was some, in that stretch of games, a lot of us started tracking those numbers there, and you were scoring in the 30s and 40s in terms of finishing around the rim. Last weekend it was 70. Is there a number you look for in terms of that?
100. That's usually the number I look for, but I'm usually disappointed. At the end, we usually don't get 100. So. No, we take pride in being a good finishing team. We practice it all the time. I think our numbers say that overall, but it's something that if it leaves you a game here, a game there, it makes it tougher to win. So finishing is always important.
I want to ask you something based on something that the DS said. Obviously, your program is a leader in NIL, and Desiree comes in with a really good understanding of her former conference's landscape as far as NIL. How does a strong collective and strong understanding of a collective kind of rise all boats with the athletic department?
Yeah, we haven't gotten to the level of those conversations, and I think we're still in the infancy of NIL, in the NCAA and at Arizona. So I don't know. I'm sure if you get somebody in who can rally the troops and create a great NIL system for the university, I'm sure it'll help all programs, including ours. So I'm excited to see what comes of it. But we've done fine with what we've had, and we've never wanted to make NIL like the leading component of our program. Our program, I want it to be a college basketball program where you're recruiting high character kids that work hard, they're getting coached. My job is to develop them, make them better, obviously better players, and hopefully we recruit great people and make them even better people. So we're going to stay kind of in that lane. That doesn't mean that we're naive to NIL or anything like that. But I think if you make NIL a leading factor, I think you're really missing the boat, and I think you're missing the boat on helping the young athletes you have a great life experience. That was what was so cool about NCAA Sports Forever. It was young people from transitioning from high school, going to college, moving away from their parents, getting these incredible life experiences that led to future life experiences. And so I don't ever want to lose sight of that.
I think it was around the Oregon State game where you had some post-game comments about Kylan staying aggressive and engaged in the game. And Washington State game, I think he had like 5 shots. But since that stretch, this 6-game stretch, he's stayed aggressive, even though maybe the scoring numbers haven't been there. He's been able to get to the rim and whatnot. How does he continue that against Washington State, an opponent that had success against him the last time?
Well, he's got to come out and be aggressive. Be aggressive first, then you got to read and react to the game. That's all. That's all. It's not much more crazy than that. And he's got to be aggressive and play with great pace, great tempo, and great fundamentals. And I think Kylan's confidence is growing. I can see that and feel that. And we always got to remind ourselves he's still 18 years old. With a lot of expectations on his shoulders. So I'm happy where he's at. And I don't expect him to be perfect, but I wouldn't be surprised if he played really well tomorrow.
That you, after the game, I believe that you've been on Krivas a little bit. What are some of the things that you're trying to get him to do better?
I mean, just play more aggressive, play with more force, more confidence. Find ways to get himself on balance better, squeeze and keep the ball high. Just normal stuff you teach young big guys. And he's coming. I think he's really coming along. He's had great stretches. I think everybody can see the potential. Now it's just really encouraging him to take the next steps. And when he takes the next steps, I think we're going to have a really good basketball player in our hands.
You guys have improved during this stretch in terms of playing in the open court and playing fast, because I know that was something you said you wanted to clean up, how you guys were playing in terms of.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're just doing a little bit better job keeping things simple, and understanding that at the end of the day, if you have a transition opportunity, the number one thing is, you should score easier in transition than you do in the half court. I mean, I don't think that's rocket science. So when we get in there, let's make things as aggressive and as simple as possible. And I think our guys are, developing better habits with that for sure.
Do you talk about standings at all with the team, especially in games like this?
I mean, not really. Our guys always, kind of have an idea, where everyone's at in the league, and I think that's important. I mean, you're competing against 11 other teams for a regular season championship, so I don't think you want to be naive and have your head in the sand. But I think we, for the most part, as we play it, we understand that every game counts as one win, one loss. And so we want to stay focused on that. We try not to get too complicated and say, well, if we win 3 of the next 4, I mean, that's for you guys. You guys can play all those games. We don't. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm sure our guys, I know our guys know, what this game means and the potential impact it can have on the conference championship.
Kind of tying into that as we're getting closer to the end of the conference season, you've had guys in the past like Ben and Azuolas being the Pac-12 Player of the Year race. This season seems like Caleb Love is that guy. What makes him a player that should be a finalist and potentially win that award?
For itself, I mean, all I can say is he's been great to coach. He's been very consistent in his approach to things, and I'm proud of him. I'm proud of him. We have a lot of work to do. So we'll share all the over the top compliments for later. But I'm proud of him, and I think it's a great story. And it's that this is a young man who obviously has been a talented basketball player for a while, and he had to kind of endure and overcome some tough times. And for him to see him come out the other side of that, hopefully better than he was before, it's really cool, and it's fun to be part of that.
What do you make of the Wildcats to Wildcats with Neil Everett? Is there anything that you've learned about your players throughout that process?
Well, I probably haven't watched them as much as you have. I want this community to get to know our players, and we want to do fun things. And it's been a challenge, trying to get that. But I think hopefully in time, as we get, we're here longer. And, we kind of get, more ideas and able to put more action on certain ideas. Hopefully you're going to see more and more of that from our program. Obviously you guys know I'm a social media maven. I mean, I'm crushing it on social media. So, but obviously, that's a joke. But I have no problem with the community really getting to know our players. I think that's, what they want. I've encouraged, my friends, Bruce's employer to do more human interest stories on our guys. I thought Bruce crushed it when he went to Israel with us this summer. I really think he did. I think that stuff's special. But I think, Tucson wants to know our players, and our players love being part of the community. So I want to continue to grow that relationship between our players and the community.
I was just wondering, 9 p.m. to noon, that's as tight as it gets in this league. Are you doing anything different this week to kind of...
Double all-nighter.
Well, especially since you haven't played Washington yet. I was wondering, do you have, or is it just your
No,
system?
I would just say this. You're taking it as business as usual from a prep standpoint. Not having played Washington, okay. I mean, would it maybe be a little bit easier if you had played them before? Maybe. But, the first half of conference, you're playing teams for the first time on Thursday, Saturday. So it's really no different. Well, and you're getting, your team's getting a little longer in the tooth. So hopefully you have, enough experience, from your basic things that you do in your program, your core things, and then some other preparations you've had over the course of the year that you can draw on. So, but that being said, I mean, I'm sure, Bruce, I'm going to tell you Thursday night, hey, we have a tough one Saturday against a really good team on a short prep that we got to go figure out how to game plan for. Obviously our main focus is on Washington State on this point, and then we obviously have some guys on our staff looking ahead to Washington, but we haven't done much with the players.
Is your daughter trying to drag you to rodeo, by the way, too? Is she into that? Or?
She's into it, yeah, but I've been a little busy, so it's just not a good time of year for me. I'm gonna ask Tucson, can they move the rodeo to the off season, and then maybe I'll participate a little bit more. So, no, looking forward to seeing you guys Thursday. Tomorrow.
And speaking of the rodeo, we know Tommy Lloyd will not be attending. He's a little busy, but we will on 13 News. We actually had Luis Thomas, the Grand Marshal, here with Anna Orsini and myself this morning. You can actually watch the entire interview. It was unscripted on 13 Plus this morning at 9:30, but we have it posted here on KOLD.com. We talked about what it was like for her to be named the Grand Marshal. We talked about her nonprofit, which is super special, the Angel Charity for Children. We talked about her story and her son, who was 9 years old, who passed away from cancer, and just really a touching interview here. So she also just looked fantastic. She talked a lot about the parade tomorrow and how she's excited. You can see Dan Maries actually did a story here just kind of profiling Luis Thomas. You can also find that on KOLD.com. And we don't want you to forget, so if you cannot head out to the parade tomorrow, that's okay, because we will have live parade coverage right here on 13 News starting tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. So you can see it here on 13 Plus, also on 13 News, also on our 13 News mobile app. Myself, Anna Orsini, Tyler Butler, and then Dan Maries, Brooke Wagner, and Aaron Christensen will be out there. So we're definitely looking forward to it. We're told the weather is going to actually be great. Taking a live look out to Mount Bigelow this afternoon, you can see a little bit windy today. Allie did mention that blowing dust advisory that you need to be aware about, but tomorrow's supposed to be pretty good. So we're looking forward to it. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.